Facebook, YouTube. YouTube always takes the longest. Okay, we're live.
All right. Sorry, y'all. We had a bit of technical difficulties. Our stream got shut down. I'm just gonna. I don't know exactly what happened. I'm just gonna say Zoom is racist. Don't let them hear me. That don't let me say that again. We might get taken down again. But we are
That part.
back with another episode of Founders Speaks, where we will be continuing the conversation that Reggie and Chardonnay started last week on Black Patriarchy. It really did a amazing job articulating their experiences with Black Patriarchy as femmes in our community, as well as the underlying problems. Um, we decided as a group that it's best for me and Prophet as the men in the organization to step up and take the responsibility of doing the emotional labor of collecting our community of Black men and really talking about the very intricate ways that we as men in the Black community perpetuate patriarchy, and the
and
ways that we
contribute
be better.
and contribute to the oppression of femmes
hmm
by doing that.
Not just that, but as a way to um, learn how to check ourselves, because it's not enough and it's honestly dangerous and disingenuous to just expect the femmes in our lives to always be there to check us when we fucking up. Us as men in our community, we have to step up and check each other and always be checking ourselves. So Prophet, let's start with the definition of patriarchy and define that within the context of Black culture.
Indubitably. So, my super nerdy nigga partner, Miriam Webster,
I keep thinking
she
that's
she
your actual friend.
be like that. Well, through her spectacles, she told me that patriarchy is a social organization marked by the supremacy of the father and the clan or family, the legal dependence of wives and children, and the reckoning of descent and inheritance in the male line. Broadly, it means control by men and a disproportionately large share of power. A second definition for it is a society or institution organized according to the principles or practices of patriarchy.
hmm
The second definition sounds like the world to
hmm
me.
I really, Merriam Webster did a, I think it did a pretty good job compared to other definitions, dictionary definitions that I saw. But I'd like to add something more. It's not just giving like men having a unbalanced amount of power. It's that that power is built upon the degradation um, and death of women and femmes. And that's a really important part to put in there, because with just saying, oh, these folks have power, okay. My phone got power. It's what happens with it. Where does that power
It's the
come
way
from?
you wield it.
What way you willed it, not just the way you willed it, but the way you got it, because there's a whole bunch of people. There might be people who are in places of power who don't do anything bad with their place of power, but don't also acknowledge that in order to get to that place of power, other folks stepped on a lot of fucking heads. Um, so whether or not you are actively hating women, recognizing that your status, your privilege, your ability to walk down the street without fear of being harassed just because of your body and your genitals, um, just the ability to do that, that safety uh, comes from other folks being at risk. Um,
Facts.
yes, I think when we define it in the context of Black culture, I find it very disgusting. Cause like, especially like coming from the hood and a lot of hip hop culture, like every nigga in the hood um who fucks with quote unquote conscious rap, their like favorite song is Tupac's Dear Mama, but they don't treat any of the women in their life worth a damn. When we look at the people who raised us in the community, when we look at the people who showed us the most love, who gave us the most structure, is the people that we treat the most like shit. So it just feels especially disgusting, not just to see the way Black men treat women in their lives, but just kind of like analyzing how I've treated Black women in my life when I was younger. It's just absolutely disgusting because like these niggas ain't never had my back. uh, every nigga, every nigga who go to jail, the first person they call is their mama. But that will probably also be the first person they call a bitch. So it's like when we look at patriarchy within the confines of Black culture, it is especially detrimental. Because we are killing and degrading the only people, like literally the only people who are uplifting us. Nobody else is uplifting us but Black women and Black fans.
And it'll never change unless we acknowledge that, recognize that, and change it within ourselves. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
And it's just especially disgusting the way that we treat them in our communities. And I guess that's just a really good way to move into kind of like the way patriarchal traditions and gender expectations kind of lead into that and play into that. From a very young age, and this is an experience for a lot of Black men, the expectation for what I was supposed to do with my life is you can do whatever you want as long as you got women. And the first like breakout, like kind of like, oh, this discovery was when I was like 7 or 8. My mother was a high school teacher. I was in elementary school. The elementary schools were out for like a teacher staff work day, but all the high schools were still in. So my mom takes me to work because fuck it. She got 2 kids, raising them by herself. She can't take off work for that shit. So she took us to work. She's talking to one of her coworkers after work who had never met us, and her coworker just says, "Oh yeah, I could already tell. He gonna be the womanizer. And he gonna be the ladies' man." I'm just like, wow. Like looking back at that, my earliest expectation of how I was supposed to interact with women was get as many as you can, and their value is either romantic or sexual. Uh, Other examples of that, any women, any girls that I was friends with, that was my girlfriend. Like, oh, that's your little girlfriend. I'm like, wow. Like, it really taught me from an early age that the relationships that I was meant to build with the women in my life were sexual or a relation or romantic. There was no room for for a platonic relation. There was no room for friendship. And in that way, because there's no room for friendship, there's no room to see them as my peer, as an equal. It's only what they can do for me, what role they're playing in my life, instead of, oh, I'm a friend and this is an equal exchange. Like when I think about it, like niggas act more like they're in a relationship with their homies than their wife. Because the only thing they're there with their wife for is for sex. And so that someone tells them, and to actually be able to hear someone tell them, I love you. That's about it. But let niggas let niggas get around their homies and see how much they want to go somewhere. See how quick, like, I know niggas who absolutely refuse to pay for a date. But let me be hanging out with them and they be like, let's go get something to eat. And I'll be like, hey, bro, I ain't even got cash like that. They'd be like, I said, let's go get something to eat. I didn't ask if you had money. Oh, but you want to pay for a date. Like, sir, we're on a date.
That part, that essential part right there, you know. And there's other examples. Like whenever a guy gets sick and he's in a relationship, his girlfriend or fiance or partner will nurse him back to health, and like will make sacrifices to make sure that he's all right. But like a lot of the times when the shoe is on the other foot, when the femme is sick, like all right, well since she ain't cooking, I'll go to McDonald's. Like you want something, baby? Like
Okay.
that.
I just want to point out that just points out something. Y'all know that when a man has a femme in his life is instantly better. An example that I like to give is that one of my homies, growing up, he didn't know how to cook, like at all. This nigga would fuck up eggs. This nigga didn't know how to boil water.
Or rice, I bet.
First of all, there's a lot of people who know how to cook that can't cook rice. Rice is actually very difficult to get right without burning it or it being too wet or too dry. I'm not gonna fault a nigga for not being able to cook rice, but this nigga couldn't boil water, and I mean it. Like this nigga was afraid to turn on a gas stove. Uh,
I love the way you just mansplained not being able to cook rice.
Nah, because
But
I know a
I'll let
lot
you
of
cook.
people of all genders who do not know how to cook rice or who are not good at cooking rice. It's difficult. It's difficult.
I'm just talking shit. Don't mind me.
Directions are so easy, but when that rice starts sticking to the bottom of the pot, and you don't know what to do.
Broke niggas don't know what a rice cooker is, so that's why the rice sticks to the bottom sometimes.
Right, but the thing is, it wasn't just that he couldn't cook; he refused to learn how. And his idea with it, first of all, his idea why he shouldn't learn how to cook was because he's always gonna have a woman in his life. And when you and that's not just to say that when a man has a femme in his life, their life is gonna be better. It's also to say that y'all niggas know this. Um, y'all niggas absolutely know this. I bet you if I were to get up on Facebook or fucking Twitter, because y'all niggas be wild on Twitter. If I were to get up on Twitter right now and say this shit, niggas would be like, bro, you capping right now. Men can do shit by themselves. Men can do this shit by themselves. But here this is a man saying, I don't have to learn how to cook because the woman's always gonna be there for you.
We're socialized to not
I'm
know.
not going to starve to death because a woman's always going to be in my life. Like literally, the only reason why you're not starving to death is because there's a woman around. Word.
There's way too many niggas like that. Way too many.
Like that.
And not only that, but like we're socialized to, like to be like that, to assume that all right, I don't have to learn these skills because like I'm gonna make my partner do it. But not only that,
but
but
like speaking
the,
on
the
that
worst part of I think the worst part about that though is that we start to see those skills like knowing how to cook or clean or how to organize shit as something that makes you less than or like bullshit like that. Like
when you see that as always going to be a woman in your life doing it, then those things don't become necessary anymore. They become feminine. It's like the weird reason why you got niggas running around saying it's gay to wash your ass. Like, because we see certain things like beauty and hygiene to be feminine. And it's like, no, your booty cheeks stick together. Like, it's also like cleanliness is not something that's for beauty. It's also for hygiene. It's also like
cleanliness is not next to womanness or femininity, it's next to godliness.
I just I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. When I look at the animal kingdom, everybody bathes. Like, y'all niggas just want to be here dirty because of your ego. Oh God. Oh God, it doesn't make sense.
Another example I could think of are like the double standards that we set for the genders. Like I have a little sister that's roughly 10 years younger than me. And when I was 15, 16, and 17, my parents didn't sweat me that much when I would go to parties or hang out with my friends late, but let my little sister do that very same thing, she would get a stern talking to, or, some of her privileges revoked for hanging out a little bit later
I
than
just
her
want to
curfew.
say where that comes from. It comes from two things. Um, One of them is a mindset and a patriarchal idea. The other is a direct effect of said patriarchal ideas. The first one is that there is this belief that women are fragile and cannot take care of themselves, which leads to
which is
hypervigilant.
false.
That's false. Then there is the understanding that niggas ain't shit. Because the idea is these boys gonna do this, these boys gonna try to do this, these boys this, these boys this. Y'all know these niggas ain't shit.
I mean, I want to say it's false, but
It's not. It's not false. It's not false. It's not false. It's not false. The idea is that these men the men that my daughter is going to be around are going to fail her, and she is going to be unable to protect herself. But these very same parents are teaching their sons the culture and behavior that leads to them being afraid to leave their daughters out at night. So it's like, really, do you want your daughter to be safe or do you want control?
that part.
It's a very weird level of cognitive dissonance to sit up there and like honestly believe in your whole heart that you are doing everything to protect the women in your life while also doing everything to contribute to the culture that harms them.
Fucking exactly. And I mean, sometimes like we unintentionally do that. Like, we enter relationships when we aren't emotionally mature enough.
And it's not even just that. There are things that we do even on a even more subtle level. Even just the way that we talk about women. I'm tired. I'm 100% tired of the word female. Like, I'm looking at niggas like niggas be on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter talking about I was fucking on this one female. I'm like, what, you fucking huskies, my nigga? A female, what? We have words for female humans. Women, ladies, femmes, all respectable terms to give to folks who identify with that gender. But female, that could be a dog. Like the pipes that run into my house that carry my shit to the sewers got male and female parts. So what the fuck are you talking about when you say female?
Word.
Like I'm literally at the point where I'm just going into the comment section like, are you fucking a husky? Like, female what, nigga? Like,
wow.
It just doesn't
Preach,
make any sense. And it's these subtle things. Like when you don't explicitly acknowledge women with words that explicitly state them as human, then you are subconsciously dehumanizing them in your own mind, not even aware of like they feel dehumanized, which is already bad enough, but you are now starting to look at them less and less and less like human.
Because it's much more subversive than the word bitch.
Mm-hmm. And that's really what you meant to call them. That's really what it was. It's fake ass respectability politics.
I will say though, and I'm not defending anyone's use of it, I wasn't aware of the understated sting of the word female until I was made aware of it recently by femmes close to me.
Mm-hmm, but you're one of the checkable niggas. The problem with it is that whenever friends bring up this conversation with most motherfuckers, it turns into, nah, that's not what it means when I say whoop de whoop de whoop. And it's just like, but look at the context. Like when you look at the exact sentence you said it, if you substitute the word female with bitch, it's the same fucking sentence and it means the exact same thing.
That part. And I didn't recognize that until I was made aware of it. And that brings me to a point that I would like to make about how that emotional labor that you had made a reference to earlier is one that we only really ever expect of femmes. Mm-hmm. You know, like when Jada Pinkett had her quote unquote entanglement, everybody was up in arms because, you know, she quote unquote used someone else of the opposite gender for her emotional development. and that is what
the
a lot
whole
of us
Jada
men
and
do.
Will situation, that is fucked. There are two things niggas are mad about. One of them I feel like is genuine, but there's also some other shit that I gotta say about it. The other one is one.
The power dynamic, definitely.
Jada didn't cheat on Will. They were separated.
Yeah.
What I think is egregious is that I think if you are separated from your partner and you fuck someone while y'all are separated, you don't know anybody any explanations. Also, you think Will ain't got hoes? The fuck?
You know what?
Will cheated. Will cheated. Will cheated. Ain't nobody said shit. So you know,
listen,
like, if you really
at
think
the
Will
very
Smith
end,
out here cheating and that Jada did him hella wrong, you're lying.
I got a question.
She used August Alsina, who originally was her son's friend, saw her as a motherly figure, even occasionally called her mom, and confided in her about dealing with very serious mental issues, that she used him for character development, really, which is valid. But at the same time, she stole that right out the nigga playlist.
I was just about to say, niggas have been doing that for centuries.
That I can't. I'm like, why are y'all mad? You mad? Like, it's like the first it's like how I look at the first. If the first nigga who ever hit an alley oop on the court got mad at the next nigga to do it, I'm looking at him like, why'd you show people that then? Why are you gonna show people the way you move if you don't want people to move like that on you?
Hell yeah. Like, that's like AI getting mad that niggas is doing the crossover. You know, and he could get mad because Tim Hardaway did it before him.
Like,
so,
how many people have we seen? How many men have we seen in surrogate father roles, mentor roles, educator roles, therapist roles that use that power dynamic to then begin a sexual or romantic relationship with that femme? And y'all mad at Jada?
Yeah. And I mean, like, there's so many centuries of like us men not becoming anything worth anything until we are loved and nurtured, and like, are able to benefit from the patience of a femme that helps us grow out of our bad habits or toxic mind states that we're socialized to have. So yeah, like, how can we be mad at, like, how? Yes, the power dynamic of her being like, involved with her son's friend, that's foul. But like, why are we mad for her doing a less egregious version of what niggas have done forever?
And like, I'm not even saying don't be mad or upset with Jada. What I'm saying is keep that same motherfucking energy for your homeboys, because they are worse. Like, you cannot, like, if you gonna shut the fuck up when your homeboy out here grooming little girls, then shut the fuck up when Jada.
That's why I'm saying, don't fucking be mad at Jada, because like, we ain't been keeping that same energy for our fellow men.
Like, if you're over here mad at Jada, I'm not even asking you to. I'm absolutely demanding you take a hard look at your homeboys and start checking them too. Because like, and that's like, to go in back to what you said about like double standards. The way we hold Black women accountable compared to Black men, it's absolutely disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting.
Looks like someone made a comment. I want to get their name correct. Someone by the name of Elemental on Twitter says, you talk about using the word female, but are comfortable using the N-word to refer to your brother.
Yeah, nigga.
Yeah, it appears that person is a troll. Moving on, because they're not even worth a response, in my opinion. You spoke of checking our homies. You want to talk about that first, or the thing that we were going to lead into with that?
Let's talk about the lead-in, because when there have been events that have happened this week within the poetry community that really reinforces the importance of tackling Black patriarchy, because it was absolutely disgusting. Where do we even start? I don't want to spend too much time on it because I don't want this to feel like we are just talking shit and dismantling someone's character. But I do want to highlight their behavior as a larger problem within the poetry community and the Black community at large. But out here in the Bay Area, there I'm going to say was because I hope he never gets a job again. And Jeremy Michael Vasquez, he had a lot of allegations of grooming youth, abusing women, pretty much being a homosexual, and
all kinds of predatory behavior.
yeah, just being in a relationship with women to have a place to live. All different types of things that stemmed from him being this just like really charismatic poet. I first met him 2 years ago. We both happened to be performing at the same event, and I don't know. There was just something about him where I was just like, yo, I actually just don't have it. Like, you just seem weird and kind of fake. Like, but also I'm an organizer in the Bay. I can't just go around blasting someone because I don't personally vibe with them. And then he turned out to be a racist. So, trust your intuition. But what pissed me the fuck off about this is just how many people came up and were just like, yeah, he was like Santa Ana. He's banned from every school in Santa Ana. He can't step foot in schools in Santa Ana. He can't step within 15 feet of Mission High. He's been banned from all these events, all these schools, summer camps. Yet, without any of this knowledge, he performed at one of our showcases a couple weeks ago. And I just feel it is not just disrespectful to the women in the community, but disrespectful to Rich Oak. It's disrespectful to me as an organizer. That nobody who knew about his behavior thought to say, yo, actually, he's kind of been like really shitty in the community. He's banned from a lot of places. So that I could then be like, nah, actually, we're not gonna have you at my show. There is this air, especially in the poetry community, that once someone gets banned, once someone is excommunicated from the local community, they are no longer a threat. They are not my problem anymore, so they are not a problem. But the thing is, what these motherfuckers do is they move and they do the same shit somewhere else.
Like, so all you're doing is prolonging the disease
down in SoCal, but SoCal never let anybody up here know. And I know there is absolutely no way in hell that there's not a single person down in SoCal that knew and was against his behavior, wasn't connected to at least one organizer up here, didn't see something with his name on it, and didn't think to be like, hey, yo, he's like excommunicated from the community down here. And this isn't the first time that has happened. There have been other folks who have been banned from other communities and then subsequently move down to the Bay or somewhere else and do the same creepy shit. And the only reason why it's not allowed to happen is because there's no communication between organizers, letting people know like, hey, we just had this situation over here. Look out for this person. How can you be there, say that you stand for survivors when you're not standing for all survivors? It's not just the survivors in your scene that matters. It's the survivors in other scenes. Like, if this motherfucker were to move to if we as the Bay Area community don't do anything to create a network across the country and across the world of abusers in the poetry community, so that we know who to feature, who not to feature, who to let in our spaces. If Jeremy Vasquez goes somewhere else and does the exact same shit, we have to own up to that shit when everybody's looking at us like, why didn't we let somebody know? Like we need a registry. Like, sex offenders have to register so that people fucking know where these niggas are at, and we are letting folks do the same things in our community, and because they haven't been arrested, there's no registry for them. we as the community need to step up and know who our abusers are, where they are going, what events they're performing at, and then let those folks know too. Um, just because we are not giving them a platform does not mean they're not getting a platform. Um,
And your fear of being sued or having there be like legal consequences for your exposing people as being predators or folks that the community need to be wary of, that fear should never come before your need to protect the people who come to your space. You can't
mhm,
say that you are providing a space for art and expression if you give the same voice, like if you care more for the voice of a predator than you do for the ones that they prey on.
mhm.
So like um to piggyback on what you said, it is imperative that like and not even just Jeremy, but I'm talking about every other Jeremy in the community. And let's keep it
Uh-huh.
real. There's more than a few Jeremys in this community, and we need to
Mhm.
weed and smoke these motherfuckers out.
Mm. Uh-huh. And it's just kind of disgusting how many times I have found out that I was in community and shook hands and was like friendly and excited to meet and engage with folks only to find out later that they were known abusers. It's not the fact that these allegations came up. It is that there was a track record of abuse and action that organizers in the Bay Area did not have. Um, like if you're banned from every school in Santa Ana, how the fuck did you get into schools in San Francisco? Who the fuck were your references? Like who
That's
vouched?
the part I don't get.
Yeah, that's another thing. I'm just like it's not only who did not speak up against this nigga, and I want it to be very clear. I'm not talking about the survivors. I am talking about people who were not victims of his abuse but saw it and did things about it.
Or
Like,
his friends that called him in. Like if your friend is accused of abuse, I understand like that's not your experience with them, and it might shake you to find some shit out or to hear some shit. You know, you might even feel compelled to call them and like have a one-on-one conversation with them. But to keep that conversation private and say like, oh, well, he sounds redemptive, he sounds remorseful, so like the situation is resolved. Like to me, that only further perpetuates this shit.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So yeah, like he was able to make that transition because like the ones like his homeboys didn't make the community aware of the shit. You know, they might
Yeah,
have spoken to him directly.
and this is a message definitely to a lot of the men. There were a lot of men in the comment sections when this shit blew up talking about I had a conversation with him and I thought like things were good. I'm so sorry that this happened. I wish this. I wish I would have done this. And it's just like, yo, like having knowing that people knew about this would have been like really great a year, 2, 3 years ago. Um, but now we're stuck doing damage control instead of actually avoiding any of the damage happening. Um, yeah, so that would being said, here at the Rich Oak Alchemy Slam at Rich Oak events, we've compiled a band list of who's banned and not able to come at to our events and who we've identified as abusers in our communities. If you are an organizer of a poetry slam, a show in the arts community, whether it's local or national, and you would like access to this list as well as to share folks who are not welcome at your show, known abusers at your shows, DM us. because we got to get this network going, and we're also going to be hitting up other streams of organizers that we know of with this information and really calling the community in, because it's hard to hold folks accountable if we don't know who the fuck we are, who the fuck they are. We are always stuck doing damage control, and there has been really little to no work done to make sure that when an abuser is excommunicated from a local scene, that they don't get to go do this shit in other places. We just expect, oh, they lost everything in the Bay, so they're gonna learn their lesson. They're not gonna be able to do this shit anymore. But like the Bay isn't the only scene around. Like they can go somewhere else. They can go to SAC. They can go down to the Central Valley. They can go up to the Pacific Northwest and do the same shit, unless we're actually telling these folks like, yo, we just excommunicated this person from the scene. Y'all are like the closest scenes in the area. We would like to let y'all know that this person is out. And really putting that outside of the local scene, the information. And what's like the way I look at it is like, yo, these, as quick as like these creeps are to dox and give out the personal information of the femmes in our community, to actively put them in like mortal danger. I ain't got no problems giving out a nigga address if they on some bullshit. Absolutely.
Hell yeah. Or pulling up and just beating the nigga's ass for like being a predator against our women and children.
I think it's especially, to get on the beat these motherfuckers ass point, it is absolutely necessary, especially for us in the Black community, because we are at the point where femmes and non-men are doing absolutely all of the work to keep the Black liberation movement alive. And it is Black men who are killing them and putting them in danger. We don't have the luxury to argue with niggas. It's at this point, you are putting too many lives in danger for me to go back and forth with you. It's either get with the picture when niggas are being nice, or like, you gotta go. Like, you have an active hand in a genocide. It's either stop or die. There's like no in between. And that's also on the check your homies front. Like there's no way you can say, I don't call women bitches, so I'm fine. Your homies do. If you are complacent in genocide, like, you got to go. You holding everybody back. You holding both sides back. Like, you gotta go. It's pick a side.
Hell yeah.
Because there are way too many lives at stake for us to let abusers live. And like, that's kind of like my problem with the whole restorative justice talk right now. And that's not to say I have a problem with restorative justice. I ran the restorative justice program as a student at my high school. I'm very well versed in restorative justice practices. Where restorative justice cannot happen is when someone's entire, let's just run over what restorative justice is. Restorative justice is when two members of the community have a dispute, where one or more members of the community are hurt by one or more members of the community. There's a sit down, there's a mediation, and the goal of it is to keep all the members engaged in the community as valued members of the community, while also healing the harm that is done. The problem with this and a lot of these allegations of sexual abuse is that these folks were never actually valued members of the community. They played themselves as valued members of the community. In fact, their only interactions with the community was predatory. There's nothing to restore in this situation. There's no goodness there. There is no value to this person's interaction in the community. Restorative justice can also not happen on the terms of the abuser. Like for example, the mediator for your restorative justice session cannot be a friend of the abuser's girlfriend. That's a conflict of interest. So we have to recognize that for a lot of these abusers, especially for ones with such extensive track records, there's no restorative justice to be done here. They need to be deplatformed and fully deplatformed, not just on the local scene, but they should not be able to go anywhere. If they need to get a job and they call someone and someone calls one of their references should be telling them they got fired or they got banned from my show. There should be no way this if we let this person live, there should be no way they can survive.
That part, because you honestly can't have your cake and eat it too. Either we're focusing on the healing of the people harmed, or we are focusing on, like letting the person doing the harming having their fair day in court. I'm all for folks having their fair day in court, but not if it means having access to the people that they harm or being in a position where they can further harm anyone.
Let's talk about court real quick. Less than 30% of rape suspects are charged. Out of those suspects, I do believe less than 10% are convicted. I don't give a fuck about a fair day in court. I honestly don't give a fuck about a fair day in court. I firmly believe that the only time a court will protect a black man is to degrade a black woman. So I don't give a fuck.
Amen to that. History. Yes, I think his Wi-Fi is out right now. But yeah, like there are so many examples of that shit though. Like I could think of one. Toyin in Houston. She was raped by a black man. Spoke about it on Twitter. Shortly thereafter, she was raped and murdered by another black man. And to be honest, it wasn't until black femmes like really lit a fire under the Houston Police Department before they really started looking for her murderer and like captured him. And if she had been raped and murdered by a white dude, it probably would have taken 2 or 3 times longer to, have him be brought up on charges. It's unfortunate that the only time I could think of the system protecting a black man who is doing harm to a femme, it was O.J. Simpson. And his was a miracle because it was a white woman and a white man that he had done harm to.
Right, but I think the point is that the courts protect these men and abusers. So to say I'm all here for a fair day in court, I'm like, hell no, fuck all that. Fuck all that. It is up to us as a community to hold these men accountable. Furthermore, a day in court only affects shit when it happens. It's just up to us as a community to stop there from being a necessary court case.
It's also up to us as a community to stop having our first reaction to these kinds of accusations coming out being like, oh, I haven't seen no evidence. Oh, I need to hear both sides of the story. Like,
here's how I feel. I would rather believe a survivor and they turn out to be a liar than not believe a survivor and someone turn out to be a rapist.
Because you have 98% chance of it being the truth. Only 2% of people who make a rape accusation are later proved to be false. A very minuscule amount.
I think when we are talking about like cases like like Emmett Till or the Central Park Five. Those are more when white supremacy comes into play. But we're not talking about the way that we interact with white women. We are talking about the way that we as black men interact with black women. And there's absolutely no way. Yeah, the court ain't gonna believe black women. If you really
Never.
think, like, it's like the court has never been set up to believe black women. So a black woman does not have the power of a white woman to walk into a court and say, this person raped me, and then it be believed to the extent of no evidence being needed the way a white woman can. So for y'all to be sitting up here talking about what if they're lying, that is like statistically impossible. They don't have the social power to lie on us like that. They just don't.
Why do we stigmatize survivors more than we do the predators? The ones who
because a lot of the times when niggas think of rape, they think of kidnap this person and force them like violently to have sex with someone. But there are a lot of things that constitute rape that are literally just like these niggas do that shit every fucking day. I had a homie, like I had to explain to this nigga, like I had a homie who was bragging about like how he had sex with this one girl and was talking about how he smoked her out beforehand so that she felt more comfortable having sex with him. And like I'm having this argument with telling him, yo, that's rape. Like if you weren't sure that she would have sex with you sober and you had to get her high in order for you to be sure she'd have sex with you, whether or not she would have had sex with you sober or not, you raped her.
Yeah, you drunk and
intention was I gotta get you intoxicated. And the idea is the reason why they cap so hard is because if that nigga right there is a rapist, then they're also a rapist. And they don't want to admit that they got these hella disgusting ass tendencies. It's a level of self-preservation where it's just like, I don't want to be wrong. Because if that's niggas wrong, I'm wrong. But yeah, nigga, y'all both wrong. We're all wrong.
Or that nigga would never. I've seen him interact with my niece or my daughter, and he would, nigga, really, like it's the Bill Cosby's, the like, oh, I'm America's dad niggas, or the, like some of the more trustworthy seeming niggas that end up turning out to be like the creeps, the ones that are really hurting the most vulnerable members of our community. Like just because someone might have done some positive things does not mean that they are incapable of doing these horrible acts.
I would just like to bring up that almost every serial killer in the history of the United States, I'm thinking of folks like Ted Bundy. They were likable, attractive, charismatic people. It is hard to abuse a whole bunch of people when nobody fucks with you. Like nobody's gonna come around and put them in themselves in the situation to be abused if they don't like you. So when I hear all these niggas saying, nah, he never did this around this person, he never did this around this person, that was their game. When I look in the Black community, one of the things that I see is that a lot of the folks, and it's sad, a lot of the folks that are caping for these niggas who are abusive are dark-skinned Black women. And I took a step back. I'm just like, whoa. Because like those are the folks who I trust the most with an opinion. When a dark-skinned Black woman got an opinion on a man, I trust it. So when I saw all these women coming out about all these allegations and quite a few dark-skinned Black women capping for them, I'm like, what the fuck is up? And then I kind of went through like who a lot of these people who are going through these allegations were. And
white women and light
skin. They were white women, they were light skinned. So it became very clear to me that the reason why these dark-skinned black women never had this interaction with this man is because he was only preying on the folks he saw attractive. And he never saw dark-skinned black women as attractive. And rather identifying that as clear colorism, it turned into, he never did this to me, so he must not do that to other people. But really, he never saw you as worthy prey.
Yeah, leave the capes to Batman.
He never saw you as someone who was worth you his time enough to take advantage of. And that's the sad part, is that they are so manipulative that the folks that they don't even see as worth their time are capping with him because he has treated them better than the folks he would rather prey on. It's this weird, twisted sick that the people he supposedly fucks with and finds the most attractive and the most likable are the people he treats the most. And it works to his advantage because then he has a whole bunch of women on his side who doesn't see as attractive, so he never found the need to abuse them, who are now capping for him because they had nothing but lovely and platonic experiences with him. And they always felt comfortable around him. But the only reason they felt comfortable around him is because his predatory nature came from his attraction. He preyed on women he was attracted to. And he wasn't attracted to you, so he didn't prey on you. And that allows you to not be hurt and then kind of be able to ignore the hurt of other folks.
I don't know if necessarily like you can fault the like 2 or 3 like.
Oh no, I'm not faulting them. I'm actually faulting Jeremy.
I mean, like,
this is part of his
I was just about to say that's the way that they were manipulated.
Mm-hmm. It's a very, very, very intricate form of a manipulation. And it's just really, really disgusting. Because that's how people get off of cases. Because they were able to manipulate enough people into believing them.
Definitely. And this shit is commonplace. Like I just read about a situation that I believe was in Georgia where it might have been Tennessee. Like 64-year-old white man was brought up on charges for all kinds of shit, from like raping young girls to facilitating the rape of young girls by young boys. And eventually the one thing he got brought on charge, the one thing that he got charged for and convicted of was like illicit contact with the minor who is now his wife. Like he groomed her into marrying him, and because because she refused to acknowledge his how like he targeted her and preyed on her, like, I don't see my husband as dangerous, and her testimony is why he only saw a year in jail. He got credit for time served, because sometimes like women are manipulated into defending sometimes their abusers or abusers that they have a positive interaction or relationship with.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I don't trust the justice system, because when niggas do get convicted, they get off on time served or with less. Like I know niggas who got more time for selling weed than Brock Turner got for being convicted of rape. But we're supposed to just trust the justice system.
All of them.
They'll get their day in their court. It's like at some point we have to realize that it's our job as a community not just to hold our men accountable, but also to prevent things like this from happening. Like there shouldn't be repeat offenders in our community, because if there's repeat offenders, there's also repeat enablers, and that's really what happened in the scene over the last 5 fucking years, 5 fucking years. Like, and repeat abuse and repeat enablers. And it's those enablers that I'm the most pissed off at, because y'all had the most power to stop him. Like y'all put so many people at risk because you didn't think it was cool to say, "Oh yeah, by the way, he's banned out here. Don't give him a
Yeah,
job."
because inaction is a violent act too. Silence is very dangerous when it comes to people who are like Jeremy or the enablers of people like him. Um, I think we've spent a decent amount of time on him, though.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to shift the conversation into like what what has to happen for patriarchy to finally die.
Well, the first thing is that it shouldn't be us having this that need to have this conversation. Um, I think the biggest reason, the only reason why me and you are having this conversation is because niggas don't listen to films. Um,
Which is
one
fucking
of,
stupid. So
right, and like
counterproductive.
one of like a prime example of how black patriarchy is so dumb, so motherfucking dumb, is that No Name posts about how black men have really just been failing black women specifically with safety, which is something I want to talk about in a little bit, specifically how we have failed our black women's safety, not just in protecting our black women, but actively being the most dangerous motherfuckers to black women. I
No
firmly
lies
believe,
detected.
nothing like dead ass, I firmly believe that if we keep going as a community the way that we're going, black men will kill black women well before white supremacy, well before it. Um, so we need to get our
Big
shit
fact.
together. But No Name is talking about this exact same fact, and brings up how a lot of rappers have been silent about it. And J. Cole takes personal offense to it, and writes a
This shit
diss track,
didn't it
basically
didn't even
talking.
really apply to him, and he still like got in his
Nah,
feelings so
because like
deeply.
because like he was talking, she was talking specifically about like how a lot of black rappers have been like inactive in the movement, and like J. Cole has been one of the more active folks in the movement, which is why I'm like, why did you feel the need to like, why are you so hurt by this? Like, hit dogs holler, nobody was talking about you, but now we are. Like you could have just kept your mouth shut and nobody would have had their name in your name in their mouth, but now we
Why are
do.
you more mad at her tone than you are at the issues that she's angry about and
Right, and like his
demanding
big argument
support for?
was, stop yelling at us. Why don't you just sit down and teach us? And then everybody is like, but No Name has a book club. Um,
Exactly. Bitch, please.
do you know what his response was though? Well, I don't read. So my nigga, like, you telling me that you just want someone to hold your hand and walk you through the way that you're killing them? Like you wouldn't do that for a white man. Why do you expect black women to do this for you? On top of that, No Name's book club came from her being checked on some problematic shit. She was defending classism, um, and she read up on it. And she started her
Capitalism,
book
not
club because
classism.
she's self-educated. Someone called her out and she said, I need to do some work. She did her research and she said, I need to share this with other people. J. Cole could have been doing the same thing. He could have read that post and be like, maybe I should read up on this instead of asking motherfuckers to teach me, because they already taught you by bringing the issue to your face. Now you have the opportunity to go, like, instead of asking black women to verbally and spend emotional labor explaining their experience to you, which they probably had to do to several men, probably that damn day. Um, read Angela Davis. She wrote the fuck down so that she will only have to say it once. Angela Davis is still alive. She has TED Talks. She does all this public speaking shit. Like, read a book, my nigga. Like, if you like Audre Lorde, there are so many different resources that you can look up into. I highly suggest checking out No Name's book club if you are looking for resources to self-educate. And I think that's the biggest thing. Is not just self-educating, but also when femmes are talking about these issues, just listening to them. And yeah, sometimes that's just gonna hurt, but we gotta just take that L and grow. Um,
Hell yeah, but it's not just the talking about it or the reading about it, and also not just about listening about it. It's
Hmm.
the practical application of the things you're learning. You
And
know, the
that's why
practical.
I just want to define that when I say listening, what I see a lot of black men doing right now, if they're not actively arguing with black women, they're just hearing black women. And what I mean by listening is actually absorbing that information and taking action based on that. It's like the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Like wisdom is applied knowledge. Like I actually believe that listening is applied hearing. Like you can hear what I'm saying, but are you listening to it? Are you actually doing something about it? And that's what we need to be doing a lot more of. Lyrical opposition says keep doing your thing in the bay. We're gonna keep doing our thing in the bay.
But we're
Yeah,
gonna do it way different. We're gonna
yeah,
do it
we can do it way
the
different. Yeah, we
antithesis of
got
the
to.
way that it had been done. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I,
And we
I'm
don't
not
need
gonna
to
lie.
just keep doing it in the bay. We need to bring this to other places. So like I see yo using a lyrical opposition. I'm gonna assume that you're an artist. Spread these ideals in your scene. Make sure
Exactly.
that if you know that there are abusers, some really shady like niggas up in your scene, let motherfuckers know. Like even another
Smoke
example
them
I
out.
think of is like the whole Rhyme Sayers incident up in Minnesota. Like everybody in the Rhyme Sayers like, yeah, we kind of knew this dude was a sleazeball. We just never thought it was dangerous. It's like, yo, if you find the way that your homies interact with women disgusting, it's dangerous, sir. Like I know
That part.
personally because I have grown up indoctrinating um being indoctrinated with patriarchy, I'm not gonna catch most shit. So shit that I'm catching, I feel like, yo, this has got to be especially heinous if my ass is catching it, catching and recognizing that much more. So if you as a man is find something that another man is interacting with a woman disgusting, a femme probably finds it that much more so, and it's probably dangerous. So you should say something.
Why is it that niggas never thought to check in with the women and get to know like who they associate with, like who those people really are? Like, why is it that like, oh, you see a 40-something-year-old man like fucking around with teenage or early 20 age females, like, oh, that's just what he does. What?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I don't need to check in with the femme to let my homie know that shit's wrong.
For sure.
I you I think in certain situations, it's definitely okay. It's definitely necessary to check in with a femme about how they feel about a situation and whether they want you to make a public statement or how they want you to handle the situation. But outside of like, if something your homie is doing is clearly wrong, like for example, the 40-year-old nigga who's dating teenagers, those teenagers a lot of times don't know better. Like they're taught to look up to older men. They think this shit's okay too, but it's clearly not. I can't go up to the fan and be like, "What do you want me to do about this?" They're probably gonna say nothing. I love him because they've been manipulated. But I clearly know it's wrong. So going up to that nigga and being like, "Yo, stop fucking with these little girls. I'm gonna beat the fuck out of you," is a much more effective option.
Yeah, because yeah, restorative justice is a valid thing, as you said, but and accountability circles can work in the right setting in the right situations. But
Mm-hmm.
accountability circles where like a nigga is on a Zoom call where his girlfriend's partner is one of the, curators and, professionals assigned to help protect the folks that are harmed. And, like you feel like compelled to plug your fucking book during a meeting designed to hold you accountable. Like, I can't jive with that. Accountability circles often end up in the person that is abusive, puffing his chest out, deflecting questions and like finding ways to be the person that's the true victim in the situation so that accountability doesn't really happen. And
And
you know,
even
like a lot of the times it's the abuser that feels hurt more often than the survivor.
and even when the abuser says, "Oh, yeah, I did that. I'm sorry. I've taken responsibility for that." Actually, they don't lose anything. They don't lose shit. They lose a few fans, but they don't lose any platforms. Um,
Yeah,
like
accountability is exile.
no,
Accountability is
right. Like
abuser feeling the pain that they caused in a different way,
mhm.
financially, economically.
Accountability, and like when I say exile, it doesn't have to be permanent. I think it's until the community and especially the people who are involved feel, if they ever feel like it would be okay to let that person back in, and there would probably have to be a lot of steps taken in order for that to happen. I'm not saying um, I'm not saying that that's the go-to option. Most of the time, just leave the motherfuckers alone and like leave them out of the community. But there are certain situations where that is a viable option. But accountability can't just be I'm gonna be off social media and not do shows for a few months until everybody forgets, and then when I come back, everything's cool. And that's oftentimes what happens. Or it can't be I'm gonna leave this scene because they're mad at me, and then go to another scene and do the exact same thing. If an abuser returns to the scene and is accepted back into the community, it has to be with a massive change of behavior and attitude. But that doesn't happen. And
I was just about to say, how often does that happen, Brad? Keep it funky.
it doesn't. I can't think of anything off the top of my head where that does happen. In an ideal situation, that's what restorative justice would look like. But it happens so little that I don't see restorative justice as being a viable first option for a lot of these situations. Um, it is, and honestly, it is really only for honestly, when it comes to like sexual and physical abuse, restorative justice is not a it's not really an option. Restorative justice is really only an option when someone's value to the community is greater than the harm that they've committed, but the harm cannot be ignored. Um, for example, in schools, really good example is when a teacher and a student get into a dispute. Both of those folks are needed in the classroom. Like the school needs the money for having all those kids in the classroom. The student needs an education. The teacher needs someone to teach. So everybody there is necessary in the community. Um, so everybody needs to stay there, and there needs to be and we need to find some kind of common ground where everybody feels like they've been heard, respected, the harm is repaired, and people can stay in the scene. That cannot happen when people's very lives were in danger. That's not more important than someone's contributions to any given community. It's just not.
It never will be. Never will be.
It never will be. Um, it just won't. Um, so I think things that we can do as the community, just to recap, check your motherfucking homies. That's really the big one. Um, I think it's really important uh, for us to be checking our homies is because when we are consistently indoctrinated by a society that tells us that women are less human than us, we don't see them as our peers. Uh, it is hard to accept accountability for someone you view as lesser than you. It is up to us as their peers, as people who they do respect as equals, and as just as human as them, to tell them they're fucking wrong. Um,
You goddamn right.
and that's why we're here today. Cause yeah, Reggie and Chardonnay told y'all niggas y'all wrong last week, but we're here just in case you didn't get the picture and you need someone who looks like you to tell you you're fucking on one.
You're motherfucking wrong. And I'm gonna also add to check your homies that you need to check your motherfucking self and the patriarchy that dwells within you. And I think, like that internal work is is uncomfortable. It's painful sometimes, but it's absolutely necessary. And the only way that anything changes is when like us men recognize that, like, okay, the way we see things, the way we, like the way we are socialized to believe things, like we need to break out of that. We need to break out of these habits. We need to stop associating our worth to how many women we can conquer sexually. We need to stop, assuming that, it's a femme's role to serve us. Like equity doesn't look like, like the fucking classic gender roles of 1950s. Equity is where we actually listen to femmes and not just hear them talk, but really change, grow, like mature. Um, like I'll give a quick example. One of the last Rich Oaks of 2019, I invite my homie from Richmond, in addition to my partner from Oakland, to the show. And my partner from Richmond left early because a female poet, I'm sorry, a femme poet,
I
Nicole.
think I think one of the things about female is that it's okay to use it as an adjective. Like, for example, female rapper. You're identifying a noun. When we say poet, um, we're already acknowledging that this person is human. It's specifically when we use female as a noun. Female is not a noun; it's a descriptor. It's very similar to Black people versus the blacks. Um,
The word. But I was saying though, Nicole has an amazing poem about rape apologists,
mm-hmm.
and that made, my friend uncomfortable because like he just felt that she was saying that all men are rapists or rape apologists, and he kind of took it to heart. He didn't leave right after that poem was spit, but he left like right before the feature. It's like, all right, like I had fun, it was cool, but like let me make my way back to my neck of the hood. Cause like in this space, I don't want to make everyone else uncomfortable, like saying that I made or that I was made uncomfortable by this rape apologist poem. And when I had this conversation with him, like I I I tried to be as delicate as I can, to his feelings. Because as a man, I recognize that sometimes like I might hear a poem my damn self and it might sound like damn, like, ooh, like, and I thought I was a decent dude, but yeah, like all men do suck. And that
I
does
think
include me. But
the
like
biggest thing
I
is
had to let him know that like he has to sit with that uncomfortability because Nicole and every other femme does and has always had to be uncomfortable around, toxic ass males and masculinity. Like, like it's okay to be made uncomfortable by that poem, but understand the reasons behind that poem.
um if you have not heard that poem from Nicole, it is absolutely amazing. Things I want to highlight that kind of stuck out to me when you said that. He's his fear and his uncomfortability came from him feeling like Nicole was talking about all men. In that poem, Nicole, it is very clear that this was a very specific experience. It is almost like she is talking to one specific man. Um, so this really just highlights my philosophy of hit dogs holla. Ain't nobody was talking about you. Nobody was talking.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was even talking about men in general. We were talking about one specific nigga, and you felt hurt. And when I think me personally, I would have took that conversation a little bit differently, and I do believe like you handled it very well. Like yes, when we hear these things, we do have to sit in that uncomfortability. But in that specific situation, it was not so much sitting in that comfortability and hearing someone else's story. It's recognizing this person was not talking about me. They were talking about somebody else and a specific person. So why did I feel so offended? Do I identify with the person she was talking about? Why do I identify with the person she was talking about? Having this is where the self-checking comes in. Like,
Well, preach, pastor. Say it again for the people in the back.
for example, like I do believe when when femmes get up on social media and are talking shit about their experiences with men, and these men come up here and talking about fuck you, whoop de whoop de whoop, and these femmes say ain't nobody was fucking talking to you. Don't keep arguing. Ask yourself why you thought they was talking to you.
Exactly. And then address that shit within yourself.
Like, if you firmly believe not all men, why is it that your words have to speak louder than your actions? Why do you have to go around and tell people not all men? Why don't you feel secure in your behavior that when you hear how bad somebody else fucking up, you have to be like, yeah, but that ain't me. Like, if it wasn't you, we wouldn't be look. Nobody was talking about you. Nobody assumed it was you until you started getting butthurt. Like,
and let me just tell a little bit before we go on to the next part and start to conclude this talk. Let me just tell a little bit about my family history, about why like I am so adamant about this, even though my family history like is, you know, a fairly unique one for this conversation, because I speak as someone who has multiple family members who are pimps and multiple family members who are prostitutes in my family, current or former. um, I was born and my nickname from birth was Killer Kev, as in Lady Killer Kev, as in ladies man or womanizer Kev. So like I was taught and socialized, you know, to believe that you know, like if I can, you know, have a little bit of charm or like a little bit of, you know, some slickness to me, you know, like I can use or manipulate or talk my way into getting things from women. And no one ever checked the pimps in my neighborhood that was preaching false gospels, you know, about like women are this and women are that, and you shouldn't do this and you should do that. No one no one checked the folks that pushed poison in our communities. Not, I'm not talking about drugs. Like I got family members that, you know, like were really good at that too. But um I'm mostly talking about that poison in the form of like socializing our sons to think that like the only thing women have to offer them is sex, or what they can do for you or what you can get out of them. Um, and I had to learn some uncomfortable truths about um, close family members, um, because like a lot of that patriarchal mindset never got really checked. um,
mm-hmm.
and it was through the love of my, you know, like my first very serious girlfriend, and you know, like other femmes that like have become close friends and near family members that helped me to grow and mature out of some of the things that I learned as a youngin, uh, you know, about women and how a man should interact and associate and be socialized to treat women. Um, yeah, that was a long and sometimes super uncomfortable process, but it was very necessary. Um, so I don't have time for niggas that act like they ain't got time to grow they goddamn selves and to grow out of that shit, you know. Um, because we ain't got time. If you can't recognize why like femmes are speaking out about the way they are hurt and wronged by us, like if you can't really listen to it, if you can't do everything in your power to do something about it, you're part of the problem, and you need to sit the fuck down, listen, pay closer attention, and check yourself. Like
I just Yeah, I just feel like it's not now. It's the time to sit the fuck down, or you gonna get sat the fuck down.
And I say this as someone who is the grandson of a fucking pimp who now has who doesn't even understand why that culture is so praised in my community, and like why it is so influential, because all it is just full of poison and toxicity. it's
Mhm.
it's one of the reasons why like East 14th Street in Oakland is like one of the human trafficking capitals of the world.
Mhm.
I'd like to change that. And that can't change until we recognize that like the shit that we, allow to happen in our communities, the shit that we allow to be seen or thought of as cool, it really ain't. Like let's call shit for what it really is,
Mhm.
not for what we can spin it to be.
Mhm. Facts. All right.
And some of those people in my family did grow to redeem themselves. So, not everyone is irredeemable.
Mhm. Mhm. Um. Yeah. So I guess I'd like to end this conversation with giving out a few resources, um, things to take a look at, to educate yourselves and get more aware on these issues. Learn how to start checking yourselves. Anything by Angela Davis, like absolutely anything. But a really great one is Women, Race, and Class. I really like how Angela Davis put women first, as a way to highlight women's role in race and class. um, as well as for all you music lovers, if you like J. Cole and you don't read, listen to No Name's music. That's another thing that pissed me off. Nigga don't read, but like you a musician that don't listen to music.
Hell yeah.
Like you getting in the beef about with someone talking about you need to teach me about this topic, and meanwhile the artist you beefing with entire music catalog is about a black woman interacting with blackness and what that means and what that looks like, um and the positive and the negatives of that. You could just listen to her catalog and get a good feeling of what she fucking talking about. You don't have to read a book. So anything by No Name, if you know about Saw Rock Up, what Rhyme says, I know they in some shit right now, but Saw Rock is still a very solid lyricist, with the same kind of ideology. Um, but those are just a few music suggestions that can educate you.
And
For
No
all,
Name is better than most of the male rappers in the game.
I'm sorry, she wrapped circles around J. Cole. She said, "I only got a minute for your ass," and wrapped circles around this nigga.
I call that a reverse quickie.
It was bad. It was absolutely bad. This nigga had a 4 minute track and got bodied in a minute 13 seconds. Um, And you know what? And that just goes to show you I just want to let y'all niggas know, like really just listen to films because you're gonna wind up looking goofy or getting your ass beat by one of us. If you don't, because that's what it's come down to. Um, like
Yeah,
if J.
violence
Cole
begets
didn't listen
violence.
to No Name, he wouldn't be looking goofy right now. His last project wouldn't have flopped. Like,
That part. And everything he's come out with since that whole beef with No Name has been like
sure.
meh to pretty whack.
Right, and the thing that kind of pisses me off is his fans, yo. His fans are mad capping when I'm talking about. You just too dumb to understand his music. What the nigga said, he got an average IQ, uh,
And don't read.
and don't read. So I really just don't know how smart the nigga can be. Um, shit, I at least read comic books and shit. But fuck, you don't read shit. Like you don't read a picture book, my nigga. They got picture books on race and class and gender studies.
Okay.
Like you could
For
just
sure.
flip through the pages and look at it and get the information, but no, you want somebody to give you an entire like college course. And ain't nobody paying no name for it. Like who the fuck is paying no name for all that information? No goddamn body. So instead of asking these films to do this emotional labor here, these are ways where you can support, where you can get the information without asking films to do the emotional labor, while also supporting those folks financially, because these are things they make money off of. No, they makes money off of.
Sure.
Angela Davis makes money off their book. It's a way to financially support the people who are educating us.
For sure. Like if you put money in the pockets of a black femme, you are helping all black people by doing just that. Because like black femmes hold the weight of the whole fucking world on their
Right.
shoulders.
And just remember, everybody in the hood know money talks. And you asking for a lot of words with no money behind it, my nigga.
Oh hell yeah. Amen. And I'm saying, you know, like pick up any book by Octavia Butler.
Yo, I'm reading Parable of the Sower right now. I highly recommend the Parable series. It is really great. And that's a fiction book too. But like even like fiction books written by black women really give a really good idea of what femmes have to deal with moving in the world. Zora Neale Hurston, Their Eyes Were Watching God, or Go Tell My Horse are really great books that show the black woman's experience. So definitely check out these books. If like we've given some suggestions for fiction, nonfiction, music, there's absolutely no excuse on why y'all niggas ain't educated yet. So with that, if y'all have any questions, leave them in the comment section. We will do our best to answer those. Is there anything else you would like to say to the people, Prophet?
Well, I guess you could say a comment and a question. So, oh yeah, real quick, do you want to mention the fundraiser?
Yes. So this week we have been running a fundraiser for our organization, Rich Oak Events. We have had a goal of raising $1,000 by the end of the week. We are currently at
32.
32. So if we can really get that up by the end of today, you can donate to us via Cash App, Rich Oak Events. You can donate via Venmo, Rich Oak Slim, or you can donate via Patreon, patreon.com/Rich Oak Events. I would like to give a special shout out to all of our patrons. We have been running a campaign to get 30 patrons so that we can let all of our artists into our events for free once we start doing live events again. A couple of days ago, we were able to get to our 30 patron mark. So we'll be making like a formal announcement about that. But just special thank you to all 30 of our patrons for helping us provide this amazing opportunity to artists in the Bay to be able to share their art with no financial holdbacks. Because honestly, a lot of times it's the artists who are least likely to be able to afford to come into an event that only costs $5. So really helping support our artist community and making sure that our starving artists are just a little bit less starving. So thank y'all.
And also upcoming events.
Yes, our upcoming events. The next one is Alchemy. Alchemy is next Saturday.
Berkeley Slam. And
Oh,
then
Berkeley Slam. Upcoming events next week. We have Berkeley Slam.
Our final showcase.
All Black Showcase. Who is featuring for that one?
Justice Amir Gaines, I believe.
Justice Amir Gaines is featuring. And we are fundraising for
Alan Bluford Center.
For the Alan Bluford Foundation. Yes. Yo, this is a really, really important fundraiser. So definitely start like supporting us next week. The Alan Bluford Center is a community center in Oakland that's been doing amazing work. It is one of our venues. They stand against police brutality. They were the first venue that we used as Rich Oak Events. And they're the venue we've been using the longest. They're absolutely amazing. And being able to support Molly and everybody down at the Alan Bluford Center and the Alan Bluford Foundation is really amazing. So definitely tune in next week for the Berkeley Slam, and then Alchemy, and then we'll be going on break for a little bit, but we'll be back with more content.
So now that we got that out the way, I'm gonna get to my quick comment and then my quick question
All right.
to close it out. So my comment is like to all of my fellow men, my fellow cis het, niggas. Um,
Yeah.
please stop being complacent. Like it might be convenient that the patriarchy works to like male benefit, but it's not really convenient because like our mothers, our sisters, our aunties, our cousins suffer. We suffer because they often have to suffer in silence because we choose to overlook the things that they go through at the hands of our fellow man. So like check yourself, check your homies, and like complacency doesn't help anyone. Like even if you've been conditioned to believe in some bullshit, decondition yourself. Um, my question is, what does a future without patriarchy truly look like?
Um, since we're talking about Black patriarchy, I'd like to keep this in the confines of the Black community. What it looks like is like upholding our end of the bargain. Honestly, Black femmes are running our movement. They're putting everything together. They're creating the marches, they're creating the hashtags, they're creating the movements, they're bringing all the awareness. They're the ones doing the research. All we have to do is give them a platform. All we have to do is let them speak and make sure they don't die. That's all we got to do. That's all we got to do. So it really looks a future in the Black community without patriarchy looks like us handing control over to the women and the femmes and us protecting them. We recognize like you can't sit up here and tell me that the most influential people in your family weren't the women. So give them that credit, that power, and also the protection that comes with that. You don't let your president run around without the Secret Service. And right now we've let a lot of presidents in our community get assassinated, whether it is physically, emotionally, or spiritually.
And queens don't move without the royal guard. And why are our queens not guarded?
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of one of the things that pisses me off about like how often Black men use the word queens and then treat them like jesters. Like, and another thing that it looks like is like for all you niggas who are listening to this and getting hurt and like mad and like you're not actually gonna do the introspection and do the work necessary to change your behavior, own your shit so we can beat your ass and get you out the community. Like a future without Black patriarchy, I don't think that it is a future without men who hate women. It is a future without the culture and the system that allows that to be normal, okay, justified, and almost considered necessary. Like regardless of what we do, there's gonna be niggas out here who hate women, but they can get their ass beat or shot. We don't have to let that be the norm. We don't have to let that to be what niggas aspire to be. We can let that be a warning. Like, hey, don't do what that nigga did because he tried to play some women and he got his ass shot. Yo, respect the women in your life or somebody's gonna beat your ass. Like, there's none of that.
Yeah, let's normalize beating niggas asses for hurting our women and youth.
Right, and then Chardonnay's over here whispering in my ear, and niggas will beat niggas asses for anything. Like the shit I have seen niggas beat their homies ass for, and I'm just like, but like, they like niggas have beat their homies ass for like talking shit, for showing up late to pick them up on a weed run or some stupid shit like that. but then we'll protect those same niggas for abusing femmes and women in their life. And it's like, where's that energy? Like, where's that I'm gonna beat your ass energy when it's actually necessary?
Yo, I had the same conversation with one of my femme friends from the Midwest, and she literally said that there in her community in Minnesota, there was someone who was accused of abusing a white woman, and then like 150, 11 billion niggas came to the defense of that white woman to beat the dog shit out of the abuser. But all of the black women in that same community that have made accusations about that man and
Nobody beat his ass.
other people, like one of her friends has a child that is a product of rape, and her rapist never got hands put on him like that, like the person who abused the white woman got hands put on. Like that shit needs to cease. We need to protect our black women and femmes and trans community like we protect the you know, like
We protect our
other,
ego.
exactly, like we protect our ego.
Like, you'll fight a nigga if he call you a bitch, but you'll call your girl a bitch real quick. And that's like not the energy that I'm personally trying to be on. Like, wow, like y'all would really perpetrate shit that y'all would beat niggas asses for if they tried that shit with you. Ooh, that is just kind of reminding me of like homophobia in the black community, which is its own conversation.
But it's also something that contributes to the patriarchy.
I think the patriarchy more contributes to homophobia, because the idea behind homophobia is that men are scared that gay men are going to do the same shit that they prey on women. Like when you ask niggas why they scared to be friends with gay folks, is because I ain't gonna go to the bathroom with gay folks and he might be looking at my dick, or I ain't gonna do this because he might rape me. But y'all homies do that to women, and y'all not afraid of these niggas. You're not beating their asses. Like, y'all really, the general consensus that's really going on is that y'all are actively acknowledging niggas are dogs. I just don't have to deal with that dog shit unless it's someone who's attracted to me. And you never think of, do my homies do this same dog shit to people they're attracted to? So that's my whole spiel. But again, that could be its own fucking episode.
Yeah, there's so much that like we have to unpack, but we don't have time for it today. So do you have any closing thoughts?
I think I got all my closing thoughts out.
For sure. I think I got most of mine out too. I want to thank y'all for listening to us in this conversation, but I'd like to thank y'all for listening to Reggie and Char's conversation last week, because femmes are the most important members of our community. The more vulnerable members of our community are the ones that we need to focus on the most and hear the most. So yeah, let's start with ourselves and change it. Like let's be beautifully brilliant and black like we was in the 60s and 70s. Well, like we said we was in the 60s and 70s.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So on that note, thank y'all all for listening. Thank y'all for coming out. We are still getting our SoundCloud set up, so our episodes will be the audio for our episodes will be up soon. Tune in for more information on our social media platforms. Follow us at Rich Oak Alchemy, the Berkeley Slam, Oakland Poetry Slam, for more information about what our next talks are going to be looking like. But I do believe we're going to take a break for a week or two to kind of schedule out what our next lineups are going to be. And if y'all have any suggestions on what issues we should tackle, not just within the Black community, but within the poetry community at large, and what you want to hear us talk about, let us know. DM us, let us know in the comment section. But we want y'all to be a part of this conversation too, because we are talking to y'all. We're not just talking at y'all. We want y'all to be engaged in these conversations as well. So definitely send us what y'all are up to. But thank y'all for coming, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, everybody.